19 children were shot dead at school in Uvalde, Texas yesterday. They were all under the age of 12, slaughtered in their classroom by an 18-year-old maniac who just bought the guns he used for his 18th birthday present. These children's parents took them to school yesterday morning, their young hearts joyful with excitement for another day of education and fun with their friends. But they never went home and they're never going home. And those parents will never recover now from the loss of their children. The shooter, Salvador Ramos, legally spent $5,000 buying 2 AR-15 semi-automatic rifles and 375 rounds of ammunition just a few days after his 18th birthday. And yet he couldn't have legally bought a beer in Texas for another 3 years. Nor could he have bought a Kinder Surprise chocolate egg anywhere in America because they're banned over the choking threat of the toys inside. You don't have to be pro or anti-gun control to realise this is bafflingly inconsistent. Just as it seems absurd that there's no law enforcing universal background checks on all gun sales, when 91% of Americans in the polls want them to happen. And those background checks must include all potentially relevant information. Ramos was known to police after violent arguments with his drug-abusing mother and firing BB guns. And we now know he posted his plan to attack a school on Facebook before carrying it out. The supermarket shooter in Buffalo, New York, Peyton Gendron, was also 18 when he murdered 10 black people in a white supremacist rampage just 10 days ago. He bought his guns legally too and was also known to police after threatening to shoot up a school. The Sandy Hook shooter, Adam Lanza, was 20. And banning people from being able to buy guns until they're 21 won't stop all young men like this getting their hands on guns. But shouldn't we at least make it more difficult for them? It takes a mentally ill monster to gun down innocent children. But it's also monstrous to watch it happen time and again and do nothing, isn't it? Scarlett Lewis's son, Jesse, was just 6 years old when he was killed, along with 19 other students and 6 adults.
I can't believe that I'm standing here talking to you 10 years after the murder of my own son, Jesse, at Sandy Hook, alongside 19 of his first-grade classmates and 6 educators. And now here we have another one after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of school shootings later. And, of course, Columbine 20 years before. And we are still hearing the same tired narrative. It is so frustrating.
I want to take you back to what happened to your boy. He was 6 years old. And he was an absolute little hero because he was in the classroom when the shooter, Adam Lanza, came in and his gun jammed. And your little lad, Jesse, shouted at his friends to get out of the classroom, which a large number of them did. I think 8 or 9 of the kids got out. And then he was shot dead. An absolute hero. Was that in keeping with his character? Absolutely.
That was Jesse, and if he wasn't coming back as we waited for those hours, I knew that he would have done something brave. And when the shooter had shot his way through the glass doors of Sandy Hook Elementary School, he made a left down the first-grade hallway. Of course, he knew where that was because he had attended that school. The principal and guidance counselor were meeting with a parent. They were startled. They opened the door to see what the noise was all about. They were gunned down, and then the shooter turned into Jesse's first-grade classroom. Everyone was scattered. His gun actually ran out of bullets at that time, and during the short delay that it took him to change his clip, Jesse called for his classmates to run. And he is credited with saving 9 of his classmates' lives before losing his own.
When you were in a dinghy yourself, risking your life for freedom, escaping the hell of the war in Syria, put me into that dinghy for a moment. What was it like to be in one of those dinghies knowing you might actually die?
Well, it's horrible because you feel like you're cargo. You feel like you don't feel human anymore, and you're treated as a number. Did I expect ever in my life, when I grew up in Damascus, that this will ever happen to me? No, because I lived a comfortable life. I lived an incredible life, but you hit rock bottom within a second. You know, it just happens in a blink of an eye. And then when through the lottery of the world you are born with a passport that you can't get visas anywhere, you can't get on a plane and go to Britain or to America or anywhere in Europe, then you are forced to travel on that boat. It is dehumanizing, it is painful, and it's quite sad. And then Imagine having traveled for thousands of miles, risked your life, crossed on a boat, and then came to Britain, expected that you'll be dealt with respect, with dignity, with humanity, and then the government here decides to put you on a plane and send you to Rwanda, to a country that you have no connections with, no community, no friends.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, no problem.
I've never been on the street before.
I've been on the streets before. I stayed at the shelter.
Yeah.
And also I was in Scarborough homeless.
This is for you.
What is it?
It's for helping me.
What is it?
Check what's inside.
No way.
$500.
Giving this to me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, bro. Respect that.
Love you, bro.
I started making the videos about a year ago now. It all really stemmed from when I was depressed and borderline suicidal in medical school. I was studying medicine at the University of Sydney, and it was almost a cry for help at the time. I made a video about depression and what I was going through. And then it just took a life of its own over the last 10 months. This video right here, where I'm blindfolded hugging a stranger, I'm blindfolded because I didn't know how to connect with my family and friends back home when I was depressed and suicidal, and I found it much easier to connect with a stranger. I hug people because I haven't hugged someone in 2 years, and I tell strangers every time I meet them that I love them because no one told me they love me in 2 years. So a lot of what I do in terms of giving back or connecting with individuals on the streets is just rooted in my lowest times.
I would say that this battle is definitely the most important of our lives, of the Ukrainians. There's so many children that have been suffering, killed or injured, up to 1,000 children. We can't really give exact numbers because the numbers are still going on and counting. This genocide of the Ukrainian population must be stopped. And this is not the word that the world should be scared of, even think about it or pronounce it. It is happening in Ukraine. And I want to use just one moment of this monologue and say thank you to Great Britain, Boris Johnson, that has stepped in. He was trying a lot from the early beginning to find the way how he can talk to Putin, how he can prevent the first steps that unfortunately were made and the lines were crossed. And all the support and supply that we were receiving from the beginning, and this is so great to have allies and partners of our nation.
Right now, there's this grisly trial going on about probably one of the worst toxic marriages I think I've ever witnessed between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We've had 2 trials now. We're in the middle of the second one. Does this kind of thing actually, is it damaging to the cause that you're trying to advance and promote?
I mean, this is such like a very sensitive topic for me because it's so personal. But to me, this trial is so, this case is so not entertainment for me. And what I worry about is it's going to damage, you know, future men or women coming forward and making their own claims, or the justice system having doubt or not believing. Because at the end of the day, you know, we can't get away from the fact that 2 women get killed every week in this country by their former partner or their current partner, as opposed to 12 men a year. So I have to kind of remind myself that I'm glad that people are aware of the situation, which is an epidemic of domestic violence and coercive control and any form of abuse. But I also think that to look at this case as entertainment is damaging. And that's why I have not even looked at it at all. It really made me have like a lump in my throat to think that this is televised, because I know when I went through all my stuff in the US, I actually had to like file court papers to have a closed courtroom, because otherwise TMZ were going to be allowed in and all these different outlets and cameras and filming and all that stuff. And luckily the judge granted me for it to be a closed court.
If you could look back over your entire life and career, if I had the power to let you relive one moment again, what would you choose?
I wish that I could have known my father better.
Right.
Yeah, it's taken a moment to to know him, but he was Scottish, and he was 56 when he died, and he was pretty burned out anyway. But I'm sorry about that. I would like to have known him better.
It was an interesting time in your life, because I think you were 15, weren't you, when he died? And he never really supported you in your dream of becoming an entertainer.
Well, I knew he was going to die. I kept telling everybody in the family. I said, I think he's going to die. And my grandmother would say, what are you talking about? I said, well, I can see it. They couldn't see it. And he did. He right in front of me. It happened. I have this ability sometimes to know what is going to happen before it does.
When you got fired, you get turfed out by the cancel culture mob. Twitter is ablaze. They're joyful, they're gleeful, they've got rid of you, they've got you out of that job, they've had you fired for having an opinion. What was going through your mind when the first few days after that?
It was, listen, I don't scare easily, you know that. But some of the comments that were coming through on my social media were so horrific about cutting my throat, my husband's, even the dogs. They wanted to kill my dogs. And then they started on Ozzy, on his site, and then my kids.
What I'm also interested in is what happened to you later, because your life, I mean, it didn't completely fall apart because you had your family, but it was incredibly tough for you.
It was tough for me, and it did affect me mentally. It honestly did, because after everything that I'd felt, all my dreams I had achieved, everything that I'd wanted to do, I had achieved. And did I want my legacy for my family to be, oh, well, your Nana was on television, but everybody said she was racist, so she never went on television again. And that kind of ate me up.
What did that do to you?
It ate me up. I must have cried for 3 months.
Really?
Never stopped crying. And my friend, Sarah Gilbert, who used to, you know Sarah.
Yeah, I know from the talk.
Right. She was the one that came up with the idea for the show and was on it. And she said, you need help. You've got to go somewhere. And she recommended somewhere. And then I was doing therapy and ketamine treatment.
Did you get suicidal at any stage?
Not suicidal, because I didn't want to give CBS the satisfaction.
Breda, let me ask you, it's also very courageous for both of you to be speaking out to the world's media in the way that you are right now. Are you not concerned or fearful of what the Taliban may do if you do interviews like this?
We have a fear that when the Taliban just watching this interview, they will be take some actions like now, while our male colleagues wearing masks, they have some issues. Like in the social media, they posted that while male colleagues wearing masks, they should be wearing shawl or they should be wearing burqa as well, that they show their solidarity with their female colleagues. So we have a concern, not just about our security job, like we will be lost our job. We have other security fears, and maybe they target us, or maybe they target other family members. We are concerned about all these things.
Let the women get back to their life. Let them enjoy their freedom that God has given them, that Islam has given them. Let the girls come back to schools. Millions of girls are waiting just for a decree asking them to return to their school. There are millions of people. It's not only millions of people. There are millions of hopes, millions of lives, you know. Yeah, these are what we want from them, and I hope they consider we are supportive. We are from the same nation. We are the same people. If we don't join hands together, I don't think that we will survive or they will survive.